What do we have here? We have lots of lovely trainers. So I've had quite a few questions come in from people about different trainers that I've been using, what I like, what I think of them. Probably over the last, say, year, I guess I've used quite a lot of the different carbon shoes that have been released. So I thought worth giving a few of my thoughts on them. Obviously these are just my thoughts. Lots of people have very different opinions of what they think is good, what works for them. People have quite different running styles. My thoughts on what I like and what I don't. So the first ones I actually tried were the Nikes. These have got me through 2 Ironman and they smell delightful. I have to say the Nikes I think have definitely nailed it for that feeling of springiness and bounce as soon as you start running. I think even when you're just doing a chilled out little jog, you still feel like you get that extra spring and boost from them, and they definitely feel pretty fast. I think over the marathon, that extra kind of foam and I guess the less impact on your legs I think makes quite a big difference. But I think for me the one thing that I struggle with a bit is balance on them because of the thick sole. I overpronate quite a lot, so I sort of run in a little bit like this, and with these it kind of exacerbates that. So I think whilst they feel nice and fast, they're not the best for my overall running. The next ones I actually tried were the Hoka. I actually really like them and I do most of my hard runs in them because they feel a bit more like I guess a more natural running trainer, so I feel like I run more normally in them. When you're up to speed they feel nice and fast, you get that bit of spring, but they still feel quite nice and stiff. I haven't raced in them because for me they didn't give me quite as much of a responsive feel as either the Nikes or actually the ASICS, which I'll come on to. Definitely the benefit I found from training, in terms of tiredness of legs post doing a session in them, I recover much quicker. The feel of them is pretty good. So I think for me, I wouldn't rule out racing in them. I actually think they'd probably be quite nice to race in, but they weren't my #1 pick when I tried other things out. And that brings me on to these lovelies, which Beth very kindly got me a pair. When you run as fast as her, I was like, wow, maybe I'll suddenly become super speedy. I've run all of my recent run PBs in these shoes, so I definitely do think they're good. I think these for me are very similar to the Hoka in that they feel like a much more natural shoe. I don't feel unbalanced on them like the Nikes. I feel much more like I'm running normally. The main difference for me with these and the Nikes is you don't feel very fast in them when you're just warming up and kind of plodding along, like you feel like a normal kind of shoe. But when you get up to speed, if you're doing fast stuff or you're racing, they feel really good and they're really nice and light and got that, for me, what I think is the nice combination of kind of stiffness but also bounce off the ground and really nice and stable. I think because it's just, you can see there's a bit of a sole but it's not massive. For me these work much better with how I pronate and how I land on my feet. And then the final ones that I've just tried are the new On shoe. So you can see again they've got quite a lot of sort of bounce going on down here, and they are super light. When I first put them on they felt really nice. I liked how they felt. They feel like a bit of an in-between shoe. They're not the stiffest shoe, they're not the bounciest shoe, and they're not the most responsive shoe. So I would potentially do some training runs in them, but they don't give me as much of a nice feel as the other shoes, so I don't know how much I'll do. The other thing, and actually the main thing that's probably going to stop me running them much more, is because this tongue at the back is so high, I get really bad blisters on my Achilles from them, which I don't get from any of the other shoes. Actually a little bit on these when I run without socks, but these are probably the fastest of the On trainers that I've run in, but for me they're still not quite as nice to run in as any of the other shoes. I haven't done any controlled testing. I think it's really hard to do controlled testing because of conditions on the day, tiredness in legs, etc. So no, I haven't done that, but I do quite similar run sessions that I have tested all of them on now actually. That kind of session would be doing 1500 meters with 500 meters in between. I haven't actually looked exactly the times because, as I said, it's not really that controlled because it's kind of different. But in terms of feel, the ones I feel the absolute best in, I probably would say I probably still feel best in the Nikes, just from when you're doing that short stuff you feel so springy, it feels great. But as I said, I'm always very nervous about going over on my ankles or kind of just running a bit weird. And then I'd say like the ASICS and the Hoka feel quite similar, with maybe the ASICS feeling a little bit faster, generally based on feel. But I guess for me, doing the longer distance events, actually that comfort and feeling a bit more stable I think is quite important. 5Ks or something shorter, I'd probably go for the Nikes. Final shoe review, managed to get my hands on a pair of these bad boys. So I've now done 2 runs in them, short little tempo bits, and then this one that I've just done was some hill reps and then a longer bit of tempo. Very similar to the Nikes, kind of got that real nice springy bouncy feeling. Definitely pretty fast. I think I just have one of my best tempo runs. Big fan of these. My only sort of negative is kind of similar to the Nikes, just with the big stack height, feel quite unstable to me. If you like the Nikes, you probably like the Adidas. Still can't work out what I think is better over a marathon. I think for like half marathon, I'd definitely go the ASICS at the moment, just because they've got that like speed but also stability. I think I would have been tempted by these, but they're just making my right foot hurt slightly. Can't work out as if I need to break them in more, but I'm not sure I'd want to risk that in a marathon. So probably leaning towards the ASICS at the moment.